developing research ideas and research proposals as a medical undergraduate. We intended this for all the medical and allied fields. Though we had specified MBBS and PharmD, we have got many registrations all over the country and from other allied branches such as nursing and BDS. And there are not only undergrads, we have some faculty guides, we have some postgraduates who have PG students who have registered. So I'm sure it's going to be a great learning for all of us. And I would like to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Pratibha Nadig. As all of you know, most of you know, I'm the founder director of Akshaisarathi Healthcare Solutions Private Limited. I'm the founder director, and I have worked as professor head of the department at Vydehi Institute of Medical Sciences and Research Center, and also at Dr. Chandrama Dayananda Sagar Institute of Medical Education and Research, CDSIMER, both in Karnataka. So the purpose of hosting this webinar is because I have a passion to teach whatever I have learned about research methodology. And since we did not have many opportunities, and I was exposed to research as HOD Pharmacology at R&D Center, Natural Remedies Private Limited, where I was involved in developing herbal medications for screening, not developing. Of course, I did contribute for the development of herbal formulations for allergic rhinitis, diabetes, which were developed based on proper scientific methods. I also was interested as I became principal of Institute of Clinical Research India, Bangalore office, where we had a collaboration with Cranfield University, UK. And that time we understood how much of change in our thinking is required, necessary in the among the medical fraternity. And during our interaction with various pharma companies and R&D centers particularly, we understood the role of medical graduates, postgraduates, and anybody who's clinicians in the development of various solutions. So from there, I said, okay, let's start. And then for the past 10 to 15 years, during my tenure as an academician, I have been conducting these workshops. And now as an independent organization, we are hosting. And I have invited many our old students as panelists who are now in their peak of their career actually. So I will come to their introduction after this talk. I will commence my session. So this is my background. Our company is involved in conducting such educational webinars and innovations in tuberculosis and antimicrobial resistance. We are into development of device and AI algorithms. And also we provide consultancy for development of clinical trial protocols and development of such research proposals and many other things which are related to our field. So with that, I welcome you all once again, and I would like to initiate my talk. Okay. Are the slides visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay. All right. So here we are developing research ideas and research proposals as medical and allied undergraduate, whoever is contributing to the field of medical development. All these people come under medical undergraduates. Let me underline this. So I am presenting as a founder director of Akshaisarathi Healthcare Solutions Private Limited. So today I had a interaction with my grandson actually. My daughter and they were discussing. He said, I would like to go to America for my higher studies. The next question was, my daughter said, why only America? Why not India? He said, we are not as advanced as America. He's a child of 7 years. And then we said by 2047, I told him, our government is planning to make this country as Vikasit Bharat, advanced country. And we may have a lot of opportunities. So this boy immediately said, yes, we need to have Why people are going there? Why I wish to go there? Because we need to have more educational institutions. We need to have more hospitals. We need to have more libraries. So all these from his point of view, he identified, he said that is the reason, if that happens, then probably I will not go to America. And that is why, that is how India can develop by doing all this. Then we said, what happens if educational institutions are more? What if schools and colleges? So he said, Americans also, with due respects to the people of entire globe. But I'm just trying to emphasize on the way the child thinks. If we implement all this, he says everybody comes to India, so I need not go outside. I will have a institution which can provide me the same quality of education as the United States of America. So the theme here, the point here is, I'm not trying to compare India and America. I'm not trying to highlight India or highlight America, whatever. The point what I'm trying to say is, the minute we initiate a conversation of any problem which is bothering us today, it sets people to start thinking. And that is the birth of research ideas, actually. Research ideas start when we get involved in the things that are happening around us in our own area and try to find solutions. So if we send a perception, if I send a questionnaire to all of you and ask what is the reason why you want to choose research methodology, as a, why are you attending this? Many people said they have different expectations. Some people said, I want to get a certificate. Some people said, I want to do ICMR project. Some said, I will get through USMLE and PLAB. This will add value. Some said, I will have some presentations, publications, which goes in my CV. So all these are very valid things, but I would like to bring everybody's attention to one point, and that is, let us understand, and all these are very valid. These are outcomes. Automatically it will happen. But where we need to focus is understand with the developing human race, I mean, with the changing scenarios, changing patterns, there is constantly a need of fresh ideas, fresh problem solving skills, fresh thinking, and that is actually the origin of research ideas. And we are in a very fascinating field of medical education or medical research. So that makes it more interesting for us to look around, be mindful, and then see how I can actually get involved in the patient care and try to come out with good research ideas. So that is the whole basis for developing research ideas. Why research? Because research means it asks questions. Research is based on questions. And in medical research, in medical field, research generates evidence through the data. You know, now today, the entire world is revolving around data, and the technologists are hungry to get data so that they can give a nice shape to that data, which gives meaningful inferences, meaningful changes in the patient treatment. So research will generate evidence through the data we collect. Research finds solutions. Because of research, we are able to treat patients because they were born out of drug discoveries. Then very interesting drug delivery systems. We have insulin pumps, and we have targeted drug delivery in cancer and diagnostics. Beautiful example is during COVID testing. And now it is artificial intelligence, which develops a lot of algorithms based on research that has been published worldwide, and research which is ongoing, and research that will be initiated. And research helps in crisis. Didn't we observe during COVID, so many people worldwide suffered, and that triggered research, and people who are already in the field, people who had laboratories which were set, people who had skills of doing research, came out with wonderful solutions. And that really helped us to tide over the crisis, either in vaccine development or detection or treatment in all the aspects of this disease. Therefore, research will address what, how, why, how much, each of these questions and many more. Therefore, we must be interested, and let us open in this session ourselves, and let us not restrict that ourselves to thinking that we are in first year or second year, nothing. Every person can think beyond his capacity if he is challenged. So therefore, let us keep ourselves open and run through these slides. I have tried to keep it at the basic level. If you are interested, then we take it at the advanced level at a later stage, because the time is limited. So what is this evidence we are talking about? Evidence is proving that this treatment works better and it works in this particular intensity. I mean, so many patients are benefited, maximum number of patients are benefited, and therefore, based on that, the governments and the associations will take a lead and publish something like this. These are called standard treatment guidelines. This is completely based on the evidence. Evidence means we have to prove clearly with proper research methodology that this particular treatment is working. And today's medicine is dependent on such data. Isn't it known very well that we depend on JNC 7 or JNC 8 guidelines for treatment of hypertension, or we depend on American Diabetes Association API guidelines for diabetes mellitus? So likewise, standard treatment guidelines have been derived from these, from the evidence that is generated through a lot of research, different types of research. If people are aware, the faculty and the guides over there, the new CBME curriculum recommends that we need to have standard treatment guidelines for all the second year students loaded on the system, so that for any type of prescriptions that we advise, it should refer to these standard treatment guidelines, and government has released number of these guidelines for most of the diseases. So therefore, this is entirely based on the research. Somebody did, students wouldn't have done, but somebody has done some research, generated evidence from there, somebody has taken it forward. That's how it has come. So the past treatment, few decades ago, it used to be on intuition medicine based on the signs and symptoms. No doubt they were very successful, and most of the things were, most of the patients used to be cured based on their experience. The doctors used to treat them. Presently, we depend mostly on evidence-based medicine, which is generated by robust randomized controlled clinical trials. Now the future is people, particularly recent in the last decade and more so after COVID, people are looking at individualized treatment, which is called precision medicine. That means previously we used to give any hypertensive based on the guidelines, and we would assume majority will show the response. But then, of course, with some criteria, of course, if they have, there are many, that is also to some extent based on the individual factors. But nowadays, it is becoming more and more individualized because of the availability of technologies such as genomics or therapeutic drug monitoring or transcriptomics, metabolomics, all these omics, because labs are providing this support. And based on that, algorithms are developed using machine learning and AI. So 10 years from now, I'm very sure it is going to be implemented. And therefore, we need to run with the speed. Run means we should not running in that way. We need to be upgraded. We need to upgrade ourselves, and we need to adapt to the evolving system of medicine. The students may find it little difficult, but at least we must understand we are in the stage of understanding what are the signs and symptoms. But we must also know, as per the curriculum also, you are studying what is evidence-based medicine, how are the clinical trials conducted, which we did not study. Now we are studying. Now with this talk, you will understand what is the relevance of introducing these topics in your curriculum, so that we understand what are these and what clinical trial, how much it helps as a research for the current treatment. And we are going in the next decade beyond that. So we need to integrate and we need to understand at this moment. Research, is it very difficult? No. Somebody said research is seeing what everyone sees, but thinking that no one else has thought. A person who is solution oriented or who starts thinking, he will try to, connect the dots and see where the problem is, and he always is thinking of how do I bring about a solution. So it is not that difficult. It is only a different thinking. If you think differently, then you can make a difference. But this implementation, it is not just at the idea level. We need to implement it and run through and follow certain proper methodology. And just thinking is not enough. We need to gather knowledge, interact with people. There are so many things involved. So it does mean that you will have to go an extra mile. But it is very fascinating once you understand that from good teachers or good mentors, or with your networking, with your professional mentors are there. They may not be in your institution, you can go out, but with that, once you start working on this, definitely it's going to be fascinating. So it can be the research which we are going to now talk for a medical undergraduate. It can be as simple as this. So this is a publication. So at this stage, I would like to say that we are talking about developing a research plan. We are not talking about how to write a paper, but that plan has materialized in this paper. If you see, this is just normative blood pressure data of Indian neonates. So what is so great in this research? But somebody thought that we are treating these neonates based on this, an old study, but still, even at that time, we treat the patients based on the international data. But what actually is a blood pressure? Because we as Indians vary in terms of genetics, epigenetics, and our lineage, our environmental factor, all these, they have a bearing on our values. For that matter, even the blood glucose levels, blood pressure levels, I think now we have a huge data. And all that, we have progressed in many ways, but still we don't have data. That itself can be a very good research. So it could be just measuring the blood pressure across so many newborn patients, and then newborn, not even patients, neonates, and then generate that data, which could be very meaningful for somebody. So that is one. Or it could be just simple evaluation of risk factors for oral cancer. One-time study. Just go and conduct a questionnaire-based study on patients with oral cancer, which we have plenty, and then ask them to, since when did you have this habit of chewing tobacco or smoking or malnourishment? So this was also a simple study, got a good publication, and it is a PubMed index journal. So very simple studies can be undertaken. Only thing is we have to get properly involved, and we should start thinking whenever we see patients. So then, or it could be something like this, which we published. Sahiti is one of the authors here. Second years can do studies on adverse drug reactions. And this was a prospective study, of course. If you have time, you could definitely do that. And if you connect with your teachers, see, we have 3 teachers helping her out. So collecting the data, calling, everything can be done. So as long as it is worked in a team, it is not at all going to be difficult, because the entire team will be benefited by this kind of research initiated by a student. What do you get by participating in research as a medical undergraduate? It will be a great opportunity to be familiar, I'm saying. You will not become masters because you have very less time. So you will understand research methodology. You'll understand what is scientific writing, because writing, we know. We have written essays, we have written so many things as in our school and in our +2. But what happens is, in scientific writing, the facts and the data have to be published, have to be presented in a very logical order and sequential order, very convincing way, and not everybody can write. So you will get, exposed to how to write and how to get published. And you will learn about research. So scientific writing not only is for publication, it involves writing this research proposal also. It involves writing the informed consent form. It involves drafting the case report form, the questionnaire. All this is involved in publishing a case report form, a single. And here, case report form, here we are talking about collecting the data collecting tools. So all this is part of scientific writing. Then we will learn about research ethics, because this ethics is something which we wouldn't have been exposed to. So we will learn the softer part aspects of research, where we need to be very gentle and respectful with the patients. So these kind of, soft skills are also learned as a part of the research. So therefore, it's very interesting. It opens up another field altogether. And most importantly, you will develop, as I said, the ability to think critically. So what is this critical thinking? If I could just put it across bluntly, in our medical profession, we have so much to read, volumes to read. Our entire time goes in learning, reproducing, answering the viva, completing the assignments, appearing for internal assessments, appearing for final examination. So is the I should say routine of teachers also. All the while they're busy with so many things. But we must find time whenever we see patients to involve and see, is there anything more that can be done? If we just accept this is a protocol to treat, and when we see that this patient is not responding, at that point it should set us to think why he is not responding. There is a problem. It could be due to anything. Medicine may not work. He may not be taking the medicines. As simple as that. He may not be compliant. He might have developed adverse drug reaction, or he is genetically not. He is not susceptible. He will not show response because he is genetically different. So any of these things. So you must start solving this. It should set you to think why there is no response, or why he's presenting in a different way. So anything that we see around, it may not be related to medical also, anything. We should always develop the habit of being mindful and be aware, get involved. That will be more interesting actually, rather than running after the subjects and trying to remember always. This will also make you understand the subjects better. So thinking about the problem, understanding the problem, thinking, finding a solution, implementing, all these are part of critical thinking, which we are not exposed to. And as I said, when I was exposed to one particular situation in the pharma industry, they said, we want to develop anti-acne product. A marketing person who was a commerce graduate comes and tells me, tell me about acne. I myself I'm not a dermatologist, I'm a pharmacologist. How do I explain to him? So the point of starting this understanding came as, it started from understanding revising the anatomy of skin, physiology of skin functions. So I started understanding the histology, physiology, the sweat glands, sebaceous glands, microbiology, what causes the acne, and what are the associated contributory factors. So I learned from A to Z about the skin, and then etiology, pathogenesis, pathology, current modalities, then understand what is the gap, why are they not effective, where we need to work. So to arrive, that was the information he wanted, because he's a marketing person. Where can I position my product? So I had to do entire. So like that, and it opened up so many things. There's an area to understand etiology. There's a research area in pathogenesis, in pathology, so many things. So unless we are exposed to such situations, we will not get into thinking. So now I will, apart from this, maybe one of you may become as big as William T.G. Morton. If you remember, he was a medical student, second year. Of course, they were little older than you people, but he was the one who introduced ether anesthesia for the treatment of goiter. For the surgery of goiter. He was the first person who identified and who devised this equipment to administer ether. Very interesting story. So this fellow started thinking when he was working in the laboratory which synthesized ether. There's very interesting history of this ether anesthesia. This fascinated me when I studied my MD pharmacology. And then it was more fascinating because it was developed by a medical student. Or you could become somebody like this who understand about this person, very, very dynamic, enterprising ENT surgeon who has 17 patents, and he has come out with a portable pocket endoscope. ENT surgeon from St. John's, also a stand-up comedian. It's helping in a big way in rural India. So he thought, his thinking was, the problem was endoscope cannot be easily, it's not easily accessible by the rural population. So he has developed. That is how. And then we have this person who has invented this one device, voice box. After the throat cancer patients were treated, they wouldn't be able to speak. So he has developed a device called OM, and it costs only 50 rupees. His name is Dr. Vishal Rao. He is an oncologist at HCG Hospital. So these are some of the innovations that have come through because of their different way they thought and they identified the problem. So now how do I start? Let's get into how do I implement, how do I, in my given settings, how do I develop the research idea? So the first thing, my suggestion with my experience I'm giving you, this is entirely my original thing with my students, I should say, in the journey of ICMR projects and other student projects. So you have an area or topic of your interest and then identify the problem. This is one of the ideal ways to start to get into the research. I'm giving you the highest ideal ways, but there are other ways also. I will explain that also, because as students, sometimes you may not have so much of time. But if you have time, if you can afford, then when you visit the clinic, as I said, when you attend the clinics, you understand the disease completely, and you will see many patients with different diseases. So understand those diseases, go to the library and get hold of the textbooks that describe these diseases completely. Maybe Robbins pathology, maybe Harrison's, maybe Davidson's, or maybe some nursing people are there. Maybe you also have a lot of textbooks. Dentistry also, people are there from dentistry. PharmD and medical will have similar areas. So get hold of them. And then discuss with your mentors, seniors, go and talk to your professors, go and talk to your postgraduates. Again, read, again, come back, again, understand the patient, go through their case sheet. So whatever is described, you need not wait till final year to understand the entire medicine. You will very well understand, because clinics would teach you everything. So this is the ideal way to identify a problem, topic of your interest, or you join an ongoing faculty project, which happened in CDSIMER. Our students joined the project which we were undertaking. So there are many faculty who would have got some grants, funding, which doesn't happen always in a private, all institutions. Some institutions such as AIMS or St. John's or government institutions where a lot of funding is available, some faculty may be working. Just understand what these faculty are doing, they're working on. Go and join them, whatever be their area. If it suits you, go and talk to them and get a part of their project, which they would also love to help. Another thing which I felt was you can do both. Faculty may not be working, but they would be interesting to help you. And they are also waiting for somebody to join them. So you can take the idea, go to them, take the research papers. That may trigger an interest in the faculty also. This has happened. And this is very commonly happening. So together you can team up, and then you can study more, and then come back, discuss with your mentors. And always the combination of a paraclinical or preclinical faculty with the clinical faculty is doing very well with the student. It does very well. So on paper, you can have for ICMR guide as a clinician, or wherever the data is getting, you are getting the data from. And you can have co-guides, 2 or 3, who will try to give their valuable inputs. Pre and paraclinical also very, they understand the fundamentals. Not that I'm a pharmacologist, I'm saying that, but I have observed that there is some time also, and they would like to get more into research. So you can interact with them, and then together you can develop. And together, in fact, you can learn many things. So this is the model which I feel any of these can work. But if you are very independent, very enterprising, very, I should say, original, then the first one, you identify, go, and if you don't get in your institution, you can tie up with other institutions, other students across. I'm coming to that later, across the other institutions also. You can tie up with them and then come back and discuss with your faculty. And then you have kind of streamlined your thought of something. Maybe I would like to work on diabetes. Just giving you an example. Then you can go through ICMR short-term studentship website, where they have given certain thrust areas. So these thrusts, if you go through this website, they have given some thrust areas which indicate what actually we need, which are the areas where we need to work. Instead of working on very high funda topics, let us see, for example, maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, or diabetes again. So they have identified areas in every subject. If you go through that website, anatomy also, there are some topics. These are topics. These are not the research ideas or research titles. These are the areas. From here, you have to derive your proper research project, right? So anatomy gives something. They have given some areas. Because ICMR says, please work on this. And you would get funding. So biochemistry. And then diabetes also. In diabetes also, they have given some areas, some different headings. You can work on natural history. Now you may think that everything is known about diabetes. We are already treating. Why again and again we have to work on diabetes? This is one of the questions one undergrad had asked me. So always, as I said, what was true 20 years back may not be true now because of the change in the gene expression, interaction with the environment, lifestyle. So people keep changing their lifestyle, and therefore their expression also varies. Their food habits change. If you see, a lot of research is happening on nutrition in diabetes now, which was not there 20 years back. We did not know what we have to eat, what is glycemic load, glycemic index. So much is being talked across all the, common man also now knows about glycemic index, glycemic load. So we need to take those topics, but see what needs to be done further. For that, we need to further research, a review of literature, I will tell you. So like that, the point is you develop, think of something, see the patients, or when you go for your family adoption program, when you see the patients in the community, you will understand what is required there. And maybe something you can contribute as a student, or maybe you keep that in your mind and work later also. The problem you identify, start thinking of the problems, and then come back, read, discuss, and then try to see how it can be solved. It may be solved by technology also. Interact with the engineers, interact with the biotechnologists. There's no harm. Now there is a lot of cross connectivity, a lot of interdisciplinary research, which is most welcome. So in any case, it could be very simple, like development of an application, mobile app. So think in what way you can do in any of these conditions. These are thrust areas, which is given. I've given some of them, not all. So now it becomes, what I should say, now you would have come after going through thrust areas, after attending the clinics, after attending the community visits, and discussing with your mentors. So you are totally occupied with doing a research project which is beneficial, which is going to be accepted. And acceptability comes first, whether your idea is really worth approving or it is worth funding. So with that, now you come to, you zero down, and then we will see how to take it further. So now I want to give 3 to 5 minutes to each one of you, and 3 minutes, I think, if you have thought of any research idea, or students particularly, and can you please share it in the chat box. I will give you 3 minutes. Am I audible? Am I audible? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So students or anybody, can you put your research idea in the use of biologics? Very good. Okay. Anybody else? Please think of a research idea and put it in the chat box. Perception of students towards CBME mode of curriculum, KAP study. Very good, sir. Perception of students towards CBME. Pharmacoeconomic impact on drug therapeutics used in geriatric. Pharmacoeconomic. Okay. Anybody else? Any other topics? Correlation between chronic stress and immune system dysfunction. Very good. Glycated albumin or HbA1c, which is better marker. Okay. Prevalence of latent tuberculosis and assessment of knowledge, preventive measures. Okay, wonderful. Mental health survey of various cancer patients. Okay. Role of vitamin D in arthritis. Good. Another 2 minutes, we shall see. KAP of medical fast foods. Wonderful. See, everyone is thinking of the problem. Very good. KAP of medical students regarding use of fast foods. Come on. Any more? Each one of you can think, students, particularly. Any more? Don't hesitate. It could be anything, whatever comes, whatever you can think. Spontaneous generation of action potential due to microinduction. Okay. Very good. Okay. Gender differences in OSC. Why are women underdiagnosed? Okay. Diabetes associated with obesity. Analysis of social media as a learning tool. Okay, good. Okay. Very interesting. Okay, so explorative study to understand social determinants, role of diet and lifestyle. Polypharmacy in geriatrics. Study on how to reduce them and analyze. Okay. Okay, you can keep posting them. In the meanwhile, very interesting topics are there. So now you have thought of some topic. These are all topics now. Let us see how we can zero down into proper research question, research objectives, and develop a research proposal. I will not be able to develop for each one of these, but then let us start thinking. You please start thinking for your topic now. Keep that topic in your mind or write it down, whatever you have put, and let us see how we can explore and then see how it can be made into a meaningful research project, which is going to be beneficial. Okay, so. So once we have zeroed down to some areas of our interest, right? Each one of you have felt that there is a problem. That was an excellent thing because you have thought there is a problem, and let us see how we can. I will give one example. You can apply that. So then again we go back. Thinking plus reading, actually extremely important. We must understand. We must read from the textbook sources where we understand completely from the latest edition. Everything is updated in those textbooks. Gather the relevant studies from PubMed, Google Scholar, Cochrane Library, and other websites where you can access these articles. You should read them. You should learn to read them, discuss with the faculty to understand them. That is very important. And make notes of that, and then get more and more. See, as in when you read, you get more information, more thought process, again read more, and then identify gaps in existing research. For example, biologics in rheumatology, sir has told. So biologics in rheumatology is a very good area because we do not know about the safety. Now we will see how we can, what in biologics that can be further worked out. So, sir, can you unmute and tell me why you thought of that topic? I think Krishna Sai said, right? Somebody said biologics in rheumatology. Can you tell me the...
Yes, ma'am. I was just thinking about it as a topic to research
on. But why did you think?
That is because I know a person who's a patient of ankylosing spondylitis.
Okay.
And so for him, he's been under corticosteroids for a long time,
okay.
but his pain hasn't been resolved. But eventually, after starting on a biologic, he's been feeling much better. So
Great.
then I feel like this has been underutilized in most patients. Correct. So I was thinking, what if it could be implemented for most people, what could the benefit be?
Yeah, right. Very good. So it has been underutilized. That's what you said. Yeah. What is the reason why you think it's underutilized? What did you think? Any idea you have?
Ma'am, it's probably more expensive. So it's not affordable for many people.
Correct. Yes, it's more expensive. So, and also maybe people are hesitant for adverse drug reactions also. We never know. But expensive is the first reason. Very well said. All right. So we can go further, and then now you see. Now you have come out with your research idea, like biologics in rheumatology, or I would say I want to study quality of life in type 2 diabetes. Do I have the time to do? So I will say, what will I do if, supposing, let's take sir's example, biologics in rheumatology, rheumatoid arthritis patients. How much do I have the time to do? Do I have a good mentor as a student? For faculty, no problem. You can take up, but can be, if it is for students, whether this topic can be given to the students, that the guide should think about. So feasibility it is called, whether we have enough patient pool and facilities in the given time. A student can not get more than 4 to 6 months. However, our student have carried it to second year and third year. So if they are very determined to do, then we have no problem, and it's very good to do in such areas. But otherwise, if they wish to finish, and if the student wants to learn everything in 4 to 6 months, then we'll have to see whether this time permits, whether there's any mentor to guide the study design and hand-holding, guiding whenever there's troubleshooting, all that, and patient pool. So feasibility you have to check. Then does the research make the patient get better? Yes, if you study these biologics in rheumatology, what happens is, if you understand, if you find more patients are responding, and probably it can become, it can lead to bigger trials, even if you do a small pilot study, or even if you, so in this study, we can do in any form, whichever suits the patients, even a cross-sectional study, which involves very, on inquiry through questionnaire and all that, pooling different patients across the different hospitals, all that can be done. But anyway, we have to look at the feasibility. We have to look, does the research make a patient, this research makes the patient care better? Does this information lead to better, improvisation of the patient care? As I said, does it generate some evidence that we can intervene? That means, supposing we say quality of life in diabetics is very much affected, then what we will say is, yes, because if you attend, so many of the out of 100 patients, 90 of them, 90% are affected. And maybe that's the reason that leads to complications. So early intervention may be better. And albumin versus HbA1c, maybe it could substitute HbA1c, or maybe instead of waiting every 3 months, we could. So any study you do, whether it is going to improve. So this we have to think right in the beginning before we do the study. Is it new or a repetition? These are the things which the people consider while approving. We should only think, is it novel or am I reinventing the same wheel? Even if it is a simple thing like getting the data, normative data on neonates, I said, that is a novelty because we didn't have data. So like that, generating data also can be a novelty. It starts from there. Then you can go to any extent. You can go to molecular level, you can go to genomic level. If you have facilities in your lab, you can develop some new thing. So anything can be done. Just then you check all this and then come to a specific research question. Let us make a research question. That means in research, nothing is vague. Everything should be pakka on whom you are doing, what you are doing, what you are going to measure, so that it will answer the question which we are going to ask. So specific research question will be from, it will start from our idea. Supposing you have somebody already mentioned, I think Pooja. Here also I have given similar example. How are children affected by exposure to social media? This is what I want to explore because there is a problem. And this is my vague research question. Now, if I want to do a research, I must frame it properly and put specific terminal, specific parameters like what is the social media exposure, and what is the, how do you want to measure that, how they are affected? So it will be, what is the effect of Instagram likes on the self-esteem of young children under the age of 12? What is the effect of Instagram esteem of young children under the age of 12? So this makes it a little more specific. What are the complications? If we look at diabetes, maybe what are the complications? I want to study complications in type 2 diabetes. As we saw thrust areas, we can say, what do you want to study about complications? What is the incidence of diabetic complications among patients with type 2 diabetes? So that is the whole, purpose of making research questions very specific. We follow what is called as PICOT criteria for writing a research question. So what is the target population? In framing the question, we must be very clear on whom I want to do. So who is the target population? What is the intervention? If at all we are intervening, if we are doing a prospective study, if we are doing a trial, then trial of anything, it could be drug or education, surgical procedure, anything. So what is the intervention? Is there any control group or comparator group? What are the outcomes and what is the time frame? Because unless we define, we cannot go on and on and on, whether we are students or faculty. We have to have a limited time, and also actually later we should understand, we should develop a Gantt chart. Which month we are doing what activities. Only then the research will be completed in that particular time, including the publication. So this is PICOT criteria. It depends. Now, if you are studying quality of life in diabetic patients, type 2 diabetes patients, or what is the incidence of complications in that type 2 diabetes, what I mentioned just now, who's the target population? Diabetes, type 2 diabetes. What is the intervention? Does not apply. Is there control group? You can have a control group if it is modified. But right now, what are the complications in type 2 specifically? So there's no control group. What are the outcomes of the study? We define. What is outcome is how many out of so many studied, what is the percentage of diabetics who develop complications. What is the time frame of the study, for the study that we define, duration of study and outcome. So this is PICOT criteria for the for defining a research question. Now we come to writing a research proposal. Is there any, so far, do you have any doubts? Any doubts so far? Please raise your hand. Or all right, anybody else? Is that clear? I assume that everything is clear so far. I assume everything is going on. Okay, thank you, Pooja. Okay. All right. So now let's see what are the titles under which we need to write a research proposal. So it will have a title, it will have introduction, review of literature, objectives, methodology, statistical plan analysis, and references. These are the contents of any good research proposal. I'm only going to touch upon the, what I should say, the concepts. I cannot go in detail. As much as possible, I will try to simplify. So introduction is like you are presenting what you want to do with proper citations, proper data, and it should clearly indicate that you have done enough homework. So that is the whole thing. The introduction will be written in very number of words, could be 200 to 500 max in the proposal or even in the paper. But the way we introduce the topic, it should create interest in the person who is reviewing your proposal. Also, when you publish the same paper, because it should be here at this stage when you plan a research proposal, that it should go through in a stringent manner so that your paper gets easily accepted. So you introduce the topic, describe the problem with statistics in your identified area. Statistics means what is happening now, what is known, particularly last 5 to 7 years, not before that. It should be recent, 5 to 7 years, not more than that. In fact, 5 years in RGHS, we used to specify. Describe what is already known based on the literature again. Identify the gap in the existing knowledge. So all these we know, we discussed just now, because sir said that biologics are less researched. So that is a gap in the knowledge. But now we have to substantiate that with references. So and so et al. Has studied, but they have not studied on larger number of patients, or only few have been studied, and only this monoclonal antibody has been studied. So like that, you can build up and see what is not there, not just for the purpose of getting it approved, but what really matters in healthcare. What really matters, that means your study should add value. That is the meaning of identify the gap. And then say, since it has not been done, we would like to undertake. So simple example like this, no health, I am using very simple example. HRQOL in patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus. So here, the authors have introduced diabetes. They have talked about the area. We are working on diabetes. Then they talk about what is quality of life. They come to this. Everywhere you see the references are mentioned. Nothing can be, I mean, we cannot assume anything, because everything should have a evidence. Today, everybody is asking, even the non-medical people also, you ask them to eat beetroot for health, they will say, where is the evidence? So we must give everywhere these citations. Then we talk about the next, we go more specifically what we intend to do in this. And then they say about diabetes and why HRQOL. They talk about QOL, they talk about diabetes, then say why HRQOL. Then they say, what is the gap? So he says several studies have demonstrated that it has a negative impact, especially in terms of complications. Most studies have been conducted in developed countries. Many PG proposals or UG, they say it's never been done in India. That is okay. That's a gap in knowledge, but you must substantiate why you want to do in India. What is that which differentiates? So he says where there is access to better developed countries, access is there. In developing countries, morbidity is associated with diabetes and its complications is higher as compared to developed countries, which adversely affects the HRQOL. Therefore, I would like to do. So that is how they substantiate. the results. And then they should also tell, in developing countries, are there any studies? They will ask that question. No, very few studies are done. If at all they are done, then they should say this study did the study like this, but number of patients were less. The study design was not appropriate. Any of these can be used. I hope the undergrads are with me. Are you able to understand? If anybody is not understanding, please let me know. And then they say, therefore, this one, hence we planned. See, this is a research paper. So we write in a, what I should say, we will write in past tense. But when you write a proposal, therefore we intend to do a study. Future tense you should write. In research proposal, it is future tense. When you complete the study, you write the paper as a past tense. So this is how the introduction is written. To introduce, it should be most impressive. This is the most, I should say, critical part of your proposal as well as your publication. The way you present the problem with the statistics, what is the burden of the disease? What is the burden? That means you should give proper statistics with the source should be very authentic also. From where you take the reference, not from newspaper or some random review article, no. Actual research articles, from there you give that statistics and some databases like WHO, those will be very valuable. Then describe what is already known. And then you talk about identify the gap in the existing knowledge, provide a rationale. Why do we need valid reason for undertaking? Then it will be approved. So we have discussed this. Now we write the objectives. So what do you wish to achieve by end of studies aim? What you wish to achieve through the study. That is the objective. What you wish to achieve through the study. It should be very, very specific. What you wish to achieve through the study. It should be very, very specific. So specific means the objectives should follow what is called a SMART criteria. That means it should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be achievable, relevant, and time bound. In other words, this also is like PICOT criteria. It is sticking to feasibility. That means you will define and then will you measure it? Supposing I say health related quality of life in type 2 diabetic patients. Health related quality of life in type 2 diabetic patients. So is it specific on whom I'm testing? Type 2. What I'm testing? HRQOL. Is it measurable? Yes. What do you measure? Scores. QOL scores. Is it achievable? Yes, very much achievable, because I will test all these diabetic patients across cross-sectional and I will get it. Is it relevant? Yes, we have explained in our introduction. Is it time bound? Yes, I can do it in a span of 4 months if I have good patient flow. So therefore, the journal has states like this: to assess the health-related quality of life of patients suffering from type 2 diabetes mellitus, patients attending outpatient departments, a tertiary care using this one. So isn't it specific? Yes, it is as specific as possible. Everything may not be, but it is as specific as possible. Now, if we come to methodology, so here we must be clear, because this is a plan. It is not only for getting approval, but it is a blueprint for us, to follow. Once we write down all these things, it will be a reference. It will be like a standard operating procedure, and we will not go wrong. So you must define the settings and study duration in methodology. From where I am going to take the patients, we should be clear about that. Discuss with the mentor. So is it from the hospital or from the field, from the inpatients, from outpatients, which department? You should be very clear, because you may be very brainy, intelligent in drafting the research ideas and all that. But then what happens as you start executing, some departments may not give you the patients because you have not discussed with them. You have not written in your protocol. You have not written the proposal. I will pick up the patients from Department of Medicine, OBG, pediatrics, or nursing departments, or from community. So for that, you need to take proper approvals, proper administrative approvals, and you should have good relation with the HODs, faculty, whoever are going to team up with you. All that you have to do. So it's not just thinking of an idea, which is very, very interesting, but when you start implementing this one, it's not tough. You just have to go around, get them done. And what should be the duration? For students, we would say do a simple study in about 2 to 4 weeks. Then study design. Choose a study design. There are different designs. I'll come to that slide, which aligns with your objectives. and it could be interventional. That means you can give the medication and see the effect, or just observe people who are being treated. It could be prospective or it could be retrospective. Retrospective means you do the analysis of the data which is there already. You have the data in the MRD, or you may have case sheets. Everything may be there online through the electronic medical records. So any of these, it could be done. But for students, generally, we say retrospective may not be acceptable. Experimental or interventional is also not approved. 2 of our projects were rejected because they were clinical trials. So observational and preferably cross-sectional, I will tell you what it is, where follow-up is not required. You just talk to a patient, make a very detailed questionnaire which collects so much of data, very meaningful data. That is more than enough. If you can get a meaningful data and you can make a good correlation and good, your objectives, like how we said now, objective is HRQOL. What will you do? You will take diabetic patients, type 2 diabetic patients, and then we will see how inclusion exclusion criteria is there, and then simple study, and then give them the questionnaire, fill all the details, and then do the analysis. So such studies will be acceptable. So, but then you should see that it is not done. It's not a repetition. Little bit of novelty we should try to bring. Then you should define the sample selection. That means who are the patients, who are the patients will be included, who are going to be excluded, and ensure that the study sample is appropriate. So, for example, HRQOL in type 2 diabetes patients, we would like to include all the type 2 diabetic patients. You cannot say type 2 diabetic patients and then exclusion criteria type 1 diabetes. This also is very important. Mostly we commit these mistakes. Apart from that, you should also specify the age. If you want particular age, if you want to do geriatric patients only, or if you want to exclude comorbidities, you want to study HRQOL only in diabetic patients, then you will exclude the people who have hypertension, who have other complications. So that you can exclude. It depends on your study. So you must remember that we must define whom we are including, whom we are excluding. Excluding is not opposite of inclusion, but they are confounding factors. I will include type 2 diabetics, but it means that we are not including type 1 or any other diabetes. There are 4 different types. Sure. So we will not say we will include gestational. That should not come into exclusion criteria. We should just write comorbidities or something. And then once we have defined that, we will talk about how we are going to do data collection. We will talk to the patients. We'll give them, we'll take their consent, and then we will take the data, which will be recorded in the questionnaire. And then this questionnaire can be paper format, or our students, our Ravi Kiran and this girl, Vaishnavi had done EpiCollect online. Most of you know that, I think. Community medicine people will be aware of that. So take the data there. So all these procedures you have to describe, because everyone will want to know. You have hyphened a topic, but actually what will you do? And you should be clear, because unless I know how to cook rice, how much to take, how much rice, how much water, how many whistles in the cooker, all that I should know, and I should be very well prepared. Only then I can cook a proper rice. Similar to that, you should be very well prepared and write it down. That goes in the research proposal, which will be evaluated by the reviewers. And then we should talk about endpoint. What is the endpoint or outcome measures? What will you see in HRQOL, for example? We will see the scores. And if you have taken a control, non-diabetic, same age group, that also design can be taken. So there you will compare the mean scores. Otherwise, you just see the scores, HRQOL scores, what is a normal in normal individuals at that age versus diabetic. So outcome measures will be HRQOL scores, or depending on your any project, HbA1c, if you are doing project on hypertension. So these are all our outcome. Mean blood pressure. What is the impact of this drug on the mean blood pressure? In that case, mean blood pressure becomes the outcome. Then about the statistical plan. Statistician must be consulted right in the beginning, because we need to have him for sample size calculation. So I'm not getting into details of this formula for sample size, but very well we understand that sample size means how many patients we are including. Sample size is how many patients, because based on our objectives, the statistician will tell, because whatever study we are doing, this one will be extrapolated to the large population. So whomever we include is representative of the large population. So how many of them should be included to make an inference like this? That is given by some. I hope you are all here with me. Very few are there, I think. I don't know, but please feel free to ask questions if you have any. And then sampling also. There are different sampling. We cannot just, every patient we cannot take there, depending on your objective. We may have consecutive sampling, random sampling, stratified, there are different methods. So whatever gives me a correct result for my objective, that a statistician will tell us. But we must have good understanding. You must make him or her understand what you want. Otherwise, most of the times there is a gap. So they will start thinking in one way, we start thinking in another way, unless we really are clear about our objectives, what I want to do, what is my endpoint, how do I want to compare, then it's not going to work. And then statistical tests for analysis. So the tests actually tell us whether this observation is really, really significant. Supposing you want to do incidence of diabetic complications, it's very simple. There is no statistical descriptive statistics. You will just measure and you'll say 70% of the diabetic patients had one or the other complication. But if you want to say, let us say, what is the risk factor? Let's say HRQL is affected in 90%. And these were the scores. So no other statistics. But supposing you want to compare the mean scores of in diabetics versus HRQL quality of life in non-diabetics, then these scores must be compared with the normal, and then we should see whether it is statistically significant. So that says, yes, there is a point. So usually taking a control adds value to the research. So statistical tests will tell us how important, how significant are our observation. Always they say, and we always indicate in p-value. What is that p-value? We say p less than 0.01, 0.05. That says the probability of occurrence of the observed effect by chance. Probability of occurrence of such an observation by chance is less than 5%. Mostly it is due to the intervention, or mostly it is a real by chance or error is less than 5%. So therefore statistics is very important. We need to discuss with the statisticians. Then we must describe, I think I've already mentioned this, data collection methods, and then talk about ethical approvals, extremely important. Unless we get approval by the ethics committee. Every institution will have scientific committee which will go through a proposal and make the scientific comments or changes in the design and all. And ethics committee will go through your method of approaching the patient, whether you want to take an informed consent. Is the patient's life at risk? Is his confidentiality affected? Is his privacy affected? Is his safety affected? So ethics committee is mainly concerned about patient protection. We cannot do research or science without, taking care of patients. Even if anything happens, we should be in a position to take care of their. We should be able to manage. If you develop an ADR in the research, in the proposal should mention how we are going to manage in case of any eventuality. So all that ethics committee will go through. So study designs, which we mentioned, what type of study designs you can choose. So I'm sure all of you would have gone through in your community medicine or, mostly community medicine deals with all this. So if you take, let's say the case report is very simple type of research where a rare case report is identified and is published or presented. Case series is a study where we study the project where multiple cases of similar presentation, they are studied and then we try to interpret based on similar, maybe 6 or 10 or whatever. And surveys, somebody had given that survey of KAP studies or observational study on knowledge, attitude, practice among medical students, or large community-based surveys to understand the patients. Somebody had mentioned, right? Tuberculosis, I think. So they are all descriptive. Analytical are observational or experimental. Experimental is clinical trial. For undergrads, we don't recommend because it is risky and you are not eligible to take up as a main investigator. So you can do an observational study either as cross-sectional or case control or cohort studies. So these kind of studies, you can get more information about these studies in the textbooks of community medicine, or we will send you some references. Now, the study which we were referring to, HRQOL, students, we prefer them to do cross-sectional, unless, as I said, you are able to devote time and then do for follow-up studies as a cohort study or a case control study. So cross-sectional is one time. Case control also can be done as a retrospective study, but generally the ICMR or others acceptance is good for students for as a cross-sectional. That is one-time study. Case control is where you have a condition and then you understand the risk factors for that condition. Let's say complications, person with complication of diabetes. You see what contributed, age or duration of diabetes, something like that. Versus supposing there is a CKD you want to do in diabetic, CKD, that is a case. You will do CKD in diabetes, CKD in non-diabetics, and then you see whether that will be the control. So that is how you can do, but that is based, you can definitely get retrospective data and you can do that. Cohort is in a small group of 1 patients, and then follow them up for some time. Generally, it is a prospective cohort, but there are other classifications. This is a very simplified, descriptions of study designs. So in this paper, we already saw the study objectives, study settings. They have mentioned outpatient department, eligibility criteria. This is a different paper. I will not give the reference. They have given male and female patients aged 18 years and above suffering from type 2 DM for at least 1 month attending these departments, agreeing to participate. What is missing in this eligibility criteria? Anybody? What is missing when we write a paper or the research proposal? What is missing in that eligibility criteria? Anybody? What was missing? They have written who has to be included. Anything else to be mentioned? What about the exclusion criteria? That it is not mentioned. As I said, HRQL, whatever it is, they should have mentioned about the exclusion criteria. That is missing there. So, sorry. So that is missing. And study design, they have taken a cross-sectional descriptive study. And now we come to ethics in clinical research. Human research is valid only when patients' rights, safety, well-being, and confidentiality are protected. So you need to get institutional ethics committee approval and obtain a voluntary written informed consent. Ethics committee reviews research proposal, informed consent form, which has to be translated in the local language, and your case report form or a questionnaire or any data collection form. So unless the ethics committee goes through the proposal, however small is the proposal, you will not be allowed to take up. And one thing I must tell you is that this review by EC or scientific committee adds a lot of value to your research because you will get a lot of suggestions from. And then we need to write the implications in the ICMR. What is a project or any other project? What is expected to be achieved or gained from the proposed research? What are the implications? What in terms of skill development of the student, that also can be written, which we discussed in the beginning. Implications, we should know that. And last is references. How do we write a reference? They expect us to write in Vancouver style. Vancouver style is in this way. You can Google it, you will get. So we write the names of the authors, surname followed by initial of first and middle name, and then et al. If more than 6 authors, then you write the title of the article, and then you write the journal and date, year and date of publication, volume and issue, and page number. This is how we need to. And Vaishnavi will tell us about use of some AI tools for this citation. Citing a textbook chapter, it will be similar, but then it is little different. You write the author of the chapter, title of the chapter, subtitle of the chapter, then editor of that textbook, edition, volume, and publisher with year and page numbers. This is how the chapter will be cited. You can go through more, you will have a lot of resources. Citing an article, access through internet, everything is similar, but then you must mention the source, from which website. In fact, you should also add, when did you accessed on, that should be written. So that completes our format of research proposal. This is the ICMR-STS, which will ask us to write in this manner, and they have defined the limits because you cannot go on and on and on. So the skill lies in, condensing whatever we have written to so many words without changing the meaning, right? So that completes our this one. What skills do you acquire as a student if you do research? So I feel you will get the keen observation skills. You will learn how to document. Everything should be written down. Yeah, yes. One more thing is the data. If you are planned for 30 patients, you must get the data of 30 patients. You cannot take 10 and extrapolate and assume that this is a common mistake which is done. You cannot assume that whatever I'm seeing in 10 will be seen in 30. No, it cannot be done like that. It's unethical also, and it's a wrong interpretation. Then you will learn how to write narratives. You will develop analytical skills and critical thinking. What are the benefits of research? You will get publications. You will get recognition and awards. You will make good presentations. You will get visibility. When you present in a conference, you can do professional networking. Above all, it is a satisfaction of giving back to the society. So these are some of the papers that students have published who are here as panelists. Siddharth Gosavi and myself, we did this. And this is metformin on fibrinolysis. Siddharth, another Siddharth Reddy. He's not here. He was also expected. Then this was my first ICMR with Roshni Revankar. So this was an animal study. Though at that time ICMR accepted, nowadays there is some hesitation and we don't do animal studies as undergrad. Then adverse drug reactions with Sahiti. And this is Ravi Kiran's project. It is under publication. And physicians' adherence to Joint National Committee with Vaishnavi and the whole group. There were 8 of them. It took quite a long time, but they had a lot of perseverance and they did it. And funding for research for undergrad, short-term studentship is there. If not, sometimes some students have come forward to invest on their own. Faculty also has contributed. Together they have. We did that actually. And if you want to do some innovations, then there is Startup Seed India Fund Scheme. But I would say at the moment for medical graduates, keep the idea, do it at a later date, maybe when you become interns also. But otherwise, if you want to really come out with the best innovation, then you need to really work on that, take a break or whatever. But there are funding schemes for MBBS students also. MBBS, PharmD, biotechnology students are taking. This is a big grant. This also is applicable for startups. And Akshaisarathi has applied for this grant. We are waiting for the clearance. And so that is for today. Any questions? I think I have taken quite long time. Yeah, it's gone beyond 1 hour. Yeah, any doubts or any this one? And then we go for a little bit on use of AI tools for this one. I think you can. Siddharth, I call you Siddharth Gosavi.
Yes,
he is our panelist for today, and he is a physician. I will read his detailed profile after some time. But Siddharth, can you add on to how people can get? I told about textbooks and journals. Is there, anything else they can as a physician, since you have been working on several projects? Can you highlight on that?
Yes, ma'am. So the key to searching for a topic is we must be very specific. So
Okay.
what happens is the most commonest databases which we use are PubMed database, Scopus Elsevier, which is actually now one of the largest, as well as UpToDate, ma'am. So UpToDate is one of the best even for research as well as for clinicians. So it covers a lot of topics and it keeps getting updated daily.
Okay.
So, and it is one of the official guidelines in the world. So definitely these 3 sources, PubMed and Scopus Elsevier and UpToDate.
UpToDate. Okay.
So this is from a research point of view.
Research point of view.
Research point of view. Clinician point of view, we have BMJ best practice. Then we have Access Medicine, Clinical Key. So all of these are BMJ best practice is also very good.
Okay.
But standard nowadays, since our MD days, we have been using UpToDate.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Vaishnavi, can you highlight on use of AI tools for review and for citations? Briefly.
Yes.
Share your slides. Yeah.
I have a few slides. I don't know if I'll be allowed to share it. Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. What about now? Can you see what I'm sharing?
Yes,
Okay.
dear.
It's not it's not a very extensive set of slides or anything, but it's sort of just to go through how we can be smarter about literature review and text extraction, how you can use AI tools for your references. Because like we've discussed and Pratibha ma'am rightly mentioned, as a student, time is of importance, right? So if you want to be a little more rapid, I think these tools are very useful. So there's something that I like a lot. It's called Elicit AI. So I've taken an example of one very simple topic just to sort of highlight how we can go about using these tools. So the question that you'll see in all of the examples is, how does climate change impact biodiversity, for instance? So Elicit and all of these tools, obviously they have premium versions as well as the free trial versions. I feel the free trial is useful and enough for most studies we do at an undergrad level. So basically, if you ask it a question, it will generate this sort of like an abstract paragraph. And once you have that, it will also show you like this in the form of a table, what each of those studies are. And then what you can also do is you can have like a filter on the side. So there are these columns. You can say you want to see only the main findings, and it will give you a summary table of only the main findings of each of the papers that are associated with your topic. Or you can say, can you just give me what the limitations were, so that you can refine on that for your idea. You can say, just give me statistical analysis. So it becomes very easy, especially in things like when you're writing a research proposal and you want these vital statistics to be included in something like your introduction, maybe. This is something I use for my master's thesis project, connected papers. It's very useful, especially if you're working on like more niche topics and your PubMed search is not really leading you anywhere. Then I find this quite useful, because then it'll start generating this tree. It's like sort of like a map of all the papers related to that one topic. So I've just shown you here what each sort of means, right? So the node size shows you how many times that paper has been cited, which means it will show you whether it's a reliable paper or not. And you can also see which year it is published. If you want to see newer papers, they'll be color-coded differently. And, they're more clustered together. They're very similar. They're a little far apart if they're not that similar. So it's fun to play around with. So I definitely recommend going through this and seeing. And also the good thing here is, if you have things like institutional access, a lot of times you can click on the DOI and it'll open up and give you the full article, and you can download the PDF and go through it, etc. SciSpace is very much like Elicit AI, but just something that I added as well, because this, I think you can see more papers with the free version than Elicit as well. So similarly, you can choose the filters you want and, just have that data from the studies. ChatGPT, there's a very useful tool once again. So we were discussing this with the other panelists last weekend, actually, about how ChatGPT can be both good and bad, right? And a lot of times, I think we aren't aware of how we can make the best use of things like this. So it's not useful to write up a whole paper, and that's unethical. It's not legal. It's not something any of us should do. But it can also be very useful, because if you ask it the right questions and you prompt it correctly, it can again significantly bring down the time taken to do research. It can make your work a lot more efficient. And I think the whole world is moving towards this. So like Pratibha ma'am rightly mentioned, right, historically, and the right way to do research is to go through textbooks, to read, and to go back to mentors, to speak to them. But we know in today's day and age that we don't have that kind of time, right? It's a very precious resource, and research is time. So things like ChatGPT, I think, as well, really makes the whole process a lot more easy. So for instance, you can see over here, how does climate change impact biodiversity? And I've asked it a prompt and said, can you give me a literature search? Can you run me a literature search of the top 10 papers, and just give me a summary table of all of the conclusions, give me the DOI. And with that DOI, you can actually open it up and see what the real article is. So that makes the process a little bit easier. I pay for the premium version. I think it's the same in India as well. It's 2,000 rupees per month. And if you're really someone who's very involved in research, I think the premium version is very good because it can do a little more logical reasoning than the free version. Right, then for reference management as well, there are some AI tools you can use. Zotero, so I have institutional access with it, which is why on my laptop I can't access the whole thing. But this is essentially how it will look. You can have a thumbnail on your toolbar on top of in your search engine. And basically whatever you're looking at, that particular link, if you click on that thumbnail, it will add it on to your list. So when it adds onto the list, this is how the interface looks when you open it. And it will give you a list of all the titles of the articles that you have referenced. And then you can ask it as well to give it to you in Vancouver style or in Chicago, Harvard style, whatever you want it. And then it will generate that whole set of references. The good thing with Zotero is also that it links with other like paper writing tools. So there's something called as Overleaf that I use to write my thesis. So basically that coded everything from Zotero and directly added the references. So I didn't really have to bother with going through every specific link and trying to change the format of the reference, nothing. So my time was cut down by, I don't know how long, because I remember in my undergrad, I'd go through with every specific link and then try to make it Vancouver style. And then I'd get feedback about this from the mentor and say, can you please change this? Because this one reference number, I don't know, 32 is not looking right. So yeah, I think this has significantly changed. EndNote and Mendeley as well. The only disadvantage with Mendeley, I think, is you definitely need an institutional access. So if any of you are lucky enough to have that, very useful. But with Zotero and EndNote, you can download it and make your own account. So yeah, that's all I really had to say. I think we shouldn't be scared to use AI for research because it's actually very, very beneficial. And the whole world is moving towards big data and AI. So definitely use it. Use it for even idea generation, if that's something that any of you might be interested in. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vaishnavi, for that note, because that would save a lot of time using AI. I am also experimenting that. Of course, a lot of originality should be there, but it will ease our work so that we can get more. Thank you so much. So with that, we now move on to panel discussion. Before that, are there any doubts? Anybody wants to ask anything? Any doubts? Would you like to?
Ma'am, can I just add on like two?
Yeah, somebody has mentioned willing to consent. Krishna Sai, that's right. In the eligibility criteria, I missed it. You are right. Yeah. Cyrus, Isaac. Yeah, I'll come to you, Sahiti. Cyrus, you can unmute and.
Ma'am, sir was talking about up to date. Can you, sir, since not many of us have access to up to date, what way can we approach the institution for them to provide this feature for us, sir?
I think so. In the Rajiv Gandhi University, we had something called RGHS Helinet. Okay, and then I think apart from that, the only ones I know who are actually giving very good institutional access are the deemed universities. Like I worked at KMC Manipal, so we had institutional access. So that's one way. So I mean, of course, if there's no institutional access, we have to buy an individual subscription. Yeah, that is one of the main disadvantages. I agree.
You can tie up with some faculty. Usually medicine professors are given by the pharma companies. I know that. So that also may be one of the
at least assistant professor and above, most of them have access.
They have access. So you can tie up with them. Sahiti, you wanted to add something? Sahiti, you wanted to add? Yes.
Yes. Amazing presentation, Vaishnavi. I just wanted to add a few more things that might be beneficial to help automate a lot of things. Like there's data collection tools also now. We use something called RedCap here, but I was looking up online that there's a Kobo toolbox, which is free in India and like easy access. So let's say you had created a questionnaire and either like you're doing the questionnaire in person, having them fill it out in paper, or depending on your target audience, if like the students, nurses, then you can even send it to them and have them do it on like WhatsApp and send it as a Google form. Google Forms has its own data analytics. It can help you do basic analysis of the data that correct. You can feed the information into an Excel sheet. Google Forms can convert your data from Google Forms into an Excel sheet. Then there's tools like Kobo Toolbox, like I said. You can create your own questionnaire and you can collect the data through those toolbox so that automatically everything is verified and in one place, and you can use that to do your statistical analysis later. And even for the searching, I thought this was like very easy, and I wanted to share the tool. Like if you don't, you're not wanting to download EndNote or Mendeley or any of the other reference management tools, like even just Google Scholar, like Vaishnavi said, if you add it as a thumbnail on your search box, and then you don't even need to open a window and you search anything on Google Scholar, like you don't even need to click once more to look at the article. There's like a site right below the article, and you click on site, then you can go through and you can say, I want Vancouver style or any other style. So there's try to work smart and automate the things that, you know, don't require as much of your thinking. And then that's when like things like ChatGPT help. Like, let's say you're not sure what tool is available. You can always ask ChatGPT, hey, is there a free tool to do this? And then test it once, and if it works, then you can use it. So I think we shouldn't be apprehensive in trying to find help through ChatGPT, not maybe to write the paper, or maybe not even sometimes for the idea, because you might already have it. But if you want to streamline your workflow, there's lots of resources available.
That's right. Pooja has asked, use of ChatGPT is becoming more among students. Some students write the whole protocol. There is no effort. How can this be avoided? How can this be avoided, or how to tackle this? Yes, ChatGPT, according to me, doesn't give references. ChatGPT gives a protocol, but there is no references. So they will have to go and see, but how to detect this? Anybody, any of you have any idea, panelists, since you have been using?
There are multiple tools which can detect AI generated text.
Okay.
So even in ChatGPT, you can put a phrase and say what is the probability that this is AI generated. So there is Grammarly and multiple apps and websites are there where, especially the ones where you can see plagiarism when you do a plagiarism check. Along with plagiarism check, it also detects whether it'll tell you that this part of the text is probably AI generated, because there are few phrases which are very specific to how each specific AI tool works, the grammar and the way the sentences are phrased, which is very specific to these things. So most of the time, it'll tell you when you do a plagiarism check for a paper, it'll, along with the percentage of plagiarism and the sources, sometimes it'll highlight the text and say most probably this is AI generated. So that might help to detect whether it is actually AI generated. Other than that, these are actually becoming more and more human-like. So it is becoming difficult to actually confirm that it is actually whether it's written by a person or AI. But as of now, that is, I think that is the best we can do with the available tools.
Yeah. So the reviewers should be little, I mean, they should get into the things and cross-question them. So if you are a little smart as a reviewer, you can definitely pick up and understand there, because I also faced one very well-written protocol. Then I was wondering, I appreciated. Then I came to know that it was a ChatGPT general. It was so beautifully written. All right. So if there are no other, then we'll move to the panel discussion. We have less time, but so I will not get into details of their CV, but these are all very well informed and up-to-date panelists, I should say. So we have Siddharth Gosavi, who is MBBS MD in internal medicine. Siddharth, raise your hand so that they know that you are Siddharth. DNB internal medicine, MD, and FAG consultant in internal medicine at Sai Gosavi Specialty Clinic, Nano Hospitals, and Saraswati Specialty Clinic in Bangalore. Siddharth was one of the person who did ICMR project with me, and therefore I have some rights on these panelists. I could invite them because they're doing very well, and I knew they would not refuse. So Siddharth is there. Then I have Sahiti Sharma, third year internal medicine resident. Sahiti, raise your hand. Wave at them. And she is at Texas Tech University with Health Sciences Center. she is also Texas President of House Staff Association Research. Texas President of House Staff Association Research Collaborator in Department of Cardiovascular Medicine, Mayo Clinic, Arizona. And she has also worked not directly, but we were involved in this IDR of Fondaparinux and heparin, and she has been really a great student at Vydehi. Both of them are from Vydehi Institute of Medical Sciences. Ravikiran Andra, Registrar, Department of General Surgery, Manipal Hospital, Vartur Road. Specialty is he was very much keen on doing ICMR. He did a lot of work on euglobulin time in understanding fibrinolysis of type 2 diabetes, and he had to do a lot of basic work in Department of Biochemistry, another ICMR student of mine. But he was also involved in, he gave a lot of talks on these wearables. He started thinking of those remote data capture using IoT, right? Internet of
Yes,
Things. That was what you were working on. And then we have Tanya, Vaishnavi Bhaskara. So all these three, and Vaishnavi is also from Vydehi Institute. She is Orthopedic Research Fellow, Southwest London Elective Orthopedic Center. Vaishnavi, you can raise your hand. Then we have Tanya Tanas. She is a PharmD and very, I should say, enterprising student. I mean, she is not my direct student, but she did a project with us, and she was very much involved in Material Vigilance Program of India, which was concerned with monitoring the adverse events of medical devices. That's becoming very popular now, and it's a national program. She helped a lot in getting the data, true proper data. That is what she was doing. And we did a study on dapagliflozin, right? Adverse drug reactions of dapagliflozin in type 2 diabetes patients, published paper with Padmaja, and now she is working as a centralized study associate at Fortria, CR, Clinical Research Organization. Then we have Anjali Venkat. She just finished project with me, and she is having internal assessment, so she has come for a short, I mean, you have internals, right? Final internals.
Yes,
so she is a final MBBS CDSIMER with great perseverance, because she has done a very tough study on pharmacogenomics, acetylator status of isoniazid in tuberculosis patients. And we really struggled collaborating across institutions all over Bangalore. She will tell her experience. And Kaushik Rajesh Joshi, student third year MBBS. So Anjali and Kaushik are from CDSIMER. Kaushik, are you there? Come on video, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, where are you? Yeah. Kaushik is a third year MBBS student at CDSIMER, and he also joined us in a tuberculosis project, and he is working extensively on diabetes and tuberculosis. Basically, he will tell about his projects, counseling, and how much it makes a difference in therapeutic outcome. So it's well known, but he has a unique, I mean, it's a very novel project what he's doing. So these are our panelists, and I thought they will share their experiences. And we will now go to questions to these panelists. So all of you, I would start from Siddharth. What motivated you to take up research as an undergraduate?
Ma'am, I always wanted to do...
All of you be brief, because we have less time, but I want to know proper answers from you. Yes.
So I always wanted to do something patient-centric and patient-oriented, ma'am. So I always looked at research as a tool for improving clinical practice. And I always had a inquisitive nature of questioning treatment right from my second year MBBS. I used to look at the entire treatment chart of all the patients and say why this, why that, why this investigation, why this treatment, why not that, why not this. So I felt I strongly believed even today I strongly believe that yesterday's research is today's practice.
Yeah.
And today's research is tomorrow's practice. So the way we have been treating tuberculosis from 10 years to now, we can clearly see the difference. Tuberculosis is one example. Even diabetes, the number of the OHAs which have come out, they're really amazing. We are able to prolong patients. We don't have to put them on insulin very early also.
Okay.
So I always felt that if we take up a topic which can influence outcome, then we can it can lead to better treatment protocols or even better investigation protocols.
Okay. So you had this idea right from the second year.
Second year MBBS, yes. That is when our clinical postings started.
Yeah. So this is a very nice suggestion for all the second year students who are here. Please go through the clinics and read those case. I also always used to tell that read through the case report forms and see what treatment is. That's the best way to learn pharmacology, medicine, all those subjects. Vaishnavi, what about you? What prompted you to take UG project?
Yes, so from the first year as well, I was looking for research projects to do, and I always came up with ideas. I used to try to go to professors just because it was something that interested me, and I did not know what my long-term plans would turn out to be. But I just felt like it was good to, even involve myself and play around with some ideas I had. But I found myself being turned down for a lot of ideas I suggested often, and I never used to understand why, because I never got feedback as to what was wrong with my idea or what I could have done better. But I think when I spoke to you and when I spoke to other professors in your department, ma'am, I understood a little bit more about how to refine my ideas and why some things are more feasible as a medical student, why some things are not. And I think another suggestion that I have is, apart from studying diseases itself or learning the science behind various things we see in clinic, come up with ideas. A very good starting point that I found was also trying to understand if we can improve certain services in the healthcare system itself. And this is something which we focus on a lot here in the NHS, because there are always lots of problems with delivering service. So quality improvement is also a very good starting point, I think, as a medical undergraduate. So there's any process that you find is not the way it should be, or there is less accessibility to certain groups of people, you can try to investigate why that's happening, and that might be the start of some new idea. And I think with Pratibha ma'am, we did something like that in the end, where we did multi-drug resistance tuberculosis in rural populations, and we were trying to understand various patient factors that may contribute to it, and how we could, I think that's when the AI idea as well started. We were trying to see how we can use AI. So yeah, that is all I have to say.
That prompted you. Ravi Kiran, what are your views?
Like Siddharth said, I have always been a very curious person. So I always wanted to know why this happens. What if that happens? What if there are two things? What is the relation and things like that? So once I came to second year and going through all these research proposals and coming to you with the questions and everything, it became more structured. So that is what having the question is different. Actually structuring it in a way to find the answer and then presenting the findings. That is what happened with that is what you taught me, ma'am. And so yeah, that is what interested me in doing research, and I've always been interested in technology. So that was all. My interest was wearable devices where you can have connected device, where now that has become very common, where you have a watch that measures your saturation, heart rate, and BP and everything. But getting all that data and reducing the gap between the time between the actual event happening to a patient and care or detection of an event. That is what I was very interested in. So
I'll continue with the next question also. How did undergraduate research help you further during your post-graduation and your practice? You are now practice, you are a surgeon. Did that add, yes, I mean, did you carry that forward?
Yes, ma'am. So the first thing, as soon as we join post-graduation, is starting a thesis work. So finding a topic for the thesis, then we have the multiple meetings, thesis topic meetings, where the scientific committee goes through it, the ethical committee goes through it, and we submit the research proposal, and then we start working on the thesis, collect the data, then write the actual thesis. So all this became more streamlined, and I actually knew what the steps were and how to go about it, because I worked on all these and I learned these things in my undergraduate. So doing my thesis, that's the main thing in post-graduation research, that you have to take one topic and write your thesis on it. So that actually helped a lot in thanks to my undergraduate research work. And also any so because I was in surgery, any unique case where there was a special presentation or we did a special procedure or combined 2-3 things, I was more eager to write a paper and present a paper or go to a conference and talk about it, presenting our findings, what happened, what we did, and how it might help others in the future, reducing the cost or reducing the recovery time of patients. So that is what my undergraduate research work actually helped during my PG.
Oh,
So,
great. Great. Sahiti, yeah, all right. Thanks, Ravi Kiran. It was
Yes.
really nice. Both Ravi Kiran, Siddharth, and Vaishnavi. Sahiti, over to you now. What were your research projects like, and how much, did your research career as UG affect your academics? What were your research projects like? Can you just tell us?
Yeah. My first research project was in the Department of Pharmacology in my second year. And after that, I took on another project in community medicine in third year, and actually in general medicine in final year, which was along the lines of what I was studying each of those years anyway. And if anything, I think it had very positively impacted my academics, because as you were like alluding to, ma'am, when you're thinking about why this, how this, and trying to understand everything behind the study you're doing, you try to understand what is relevant, how to study, what is important, why is it important. And if you're able to read a huge research article by yourself, a textbook is nothing in comparison. It's like a lot simpler and has everything in a concise manner, and you're able to go through, process, and store that information much better. So I think if anything, research gave me a better outlook. It helped me to understand things better, and it helped me approach my academics in a better way, so that I'm learning not only to pass an exam, but I'm also learning so that if I see a patient like this, then how am I going to take care of them? Or if I come across a condition like this, how can I best treat that condition? So I think they went hand in hand, and it was synergistic.
It was synergistic. How did it help you to get admissions in the international university?
I think it definitely helped.
How much it played a role?
I think it had almost like the major or the most important role for me to eventually come to the United States, because all the research opportunities I took up gave me that exposure to find a research opportunity in the US, and that's eventually what led me into residency here. So I think that was the stepping stone for me, even though that was never the intention starting off.
Yeah.
Like I said, once you do research and it's on your CV, it's on your CV forever, no matter what you want to do. So it's always beneficial.
Just to add to what Ravi Kiran said, ma'am, after PG, we realized that there are still no guidelines for many diseases. There are only research papers still. Simple example I'll give you one, especially yellow phosphorus poisoning, which is very common in Dakshina Kannada district. So there, initially when the patient presents, right on the first day, we are supposed to start the plasmapheresis. There is nowhere guidelines mentioned. There are multiple research papers, and this has prevented patient mortality. So even today, we refer mostly to research papers more than guidelines, sometimes for many diseases. So that is one major thing which has influenced our practice.
Correct. But you can bring it as a policy by initiating research in that and doing it a multicentric research. Multicentric trials are required to bring it into policy, but it is worthwhile, and it's good that since you don't have policies, you will depend on the latest evidence available, isn't it? So that's how you are practicing, and very beautifully said, you're preventing the mortality. So therefore, it has publications have helped you to bring better, improvement in the patient care. All right. So Anjali, I think we can send Anjali. Anjali, what was your topic? What was your research topic? How did it start? And what were the difficulties? Or you tell me what was your project? Then I have another question.
Yes, ma'am. So mine was, the title was Determination of Isoniazid Acetylator Status of Tuberculosis Patients in Rural South Indian Population and Aid for Personalized Medicine in Tuberculosis. So
why did you choose? How did you agree to take up that project?
Yes, ma'am. So we had
working in your mind,
So I was interested in genetics from when we learned about it in 12th and PUC itself. And then we had one class by Pratibha ma'am only on pharmacogenomics, one of the first few classes we had in pharmacology. And so that like sparked my interest. And after that, I went to ma'am and spoke to her and told her that I'm interested in like genetics and I wanted to do something in research. So ma'am suggested this topic, and that's how it started.
Yeah, why I brought out this is very few students, the first introductory talk on definitions in pharmacology.
Yes,
That time I mentioned pharmacogenomics, and that was there within her. She wanted to really explore. Otherwise, we keep teaching to so many students, but then that genetics you wanted to explore, and therefore, and Anjali did the study over 1.5 years, and it took a long time. And literally, our institute supported in terms of motivation, encouragement, everything. But she had to go to different locations to do her. One place was DNA extraction, another place she had to do further processing, and then she had to do sequencing in another place. So, what kept you going, Anjali, amidst all these odds? You
Ma'am,
never thought of dropping it in between?
I think in the starting, it was purely interest. Like I was like, I want to know what is happening. I want to know how it is done. And also we've learned about PCR and all that, and actually seeing that happening in real life, apart from the textbook, was very interesting for me. And throughout the step, there were many new things that I was learning. So all of that kept me going. And of course, like Pratibha ma'am was there throughout.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I mean, I didn't want to say that, but what I wanted was, so we are all obviously interested in students doing it, and we also learn. But as an undergrad student, in spite of having so many hurdles, it was your interest which kept going.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. It was definitely my interest.
Because she had to drive and carry the samples in the ice box, and then, as I said, Banaswadi from Harohalli, she'll go to Banaswadi, then we go to Electronic City, and yet she completed, and we had a very good advisor for genetics. So
Yes,
Ravi Kumar, yeah. So we got a very good person. So that's what, as an undergraduate, if you have the drive, teachers, as teachers, we are there for everybody. But unless you have the drive, it will not go further. So that drive, that's why I appreciated her. And good, Anjali. So there, I think, Anjali, I think that is for you. If you want to go back to your preparation, you can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Tanya, now coming to Tanya. Tanya Tanas, as I told you, she's a PharmD graduate, but what impressed me, why I called her today, Tanya, are you there? Was,
yes,
please come on the video mode, yeah. Was she wrote, when I asked her to write a protocol, I mean, one of the best protocols, and she didn't refer ChatGPT. It was her original protocol. It was so well written. That was when I understood that PharmD students also, for the information of all of you and for whoever is going to watch this video, they are well trained in clinical research, and some of them are extremely good. And she was one of them who wrote a very nice protocol where I had to make very minimal changes. And then she just, with her good attitude, good networking, she got involved in multiple projects. Tanya, just quickly enumerate the projects you did with our department as a PharmD student.
Ma'am, so hi everyone. So my first project with you was, I think, on the adverse effects of the, it was an observational study of the medical device related adverse effects, which we were doing in collaboration with the Material Vigilance Program of India. And then we did one on a prospective, I think, we did a prospective study on the medication errors in CDSIMER, where we were reporting the type of medication errors.
With Dr. Shivamurthy. Yeah, with Dr. Shivamurthy. Yes.
Yes. And then there was one more which had, we studied of the adverse effects of dapagliflozin amongst the diabetic patients. So those were 3. And yes, and one more was one I did back in my 5th year of PharmD. That was surgical prophylaxis in gastrointestinal surgeries. So that was one of them. Yeah.
Okay. So how did the skills which you developed during research, how are they helping you in your current career as a manager in clinical research organization? You are dealing with some documents and research related documents, right? So how is it helping you? Do you suggest undergrads to take up projects so that they will be a better performer?
Mhm. So definitely. So back then, when I took up a project, even I wasn't sure of the fact that I'd be continuing with academia or I'd be entering the industry. So I took up research because it was my personal curiosity and interest that brought me out of whatever we learned from in the classroom to implementing it into like the real world. And secondly, there were a lot of skills, like especially like the one that you mentioned was protocol writing. So when, as of now, I'll just brief about clinical trials and sites. So now as we work and we look upon sites, which are basically hospitals, they have, when they have a drug development research going on, they need to follow a certain protocol. And again, they follow the same set of inclusion exclusion criteria. They recruit patients based on that, and then they carry out the research moving further. And it has different phases regarding safety, efficacy, all of that. So in that, it does help us because it gives us, firstly, when you write the protocol yourself, you have an in-depth and elaborate understanding of what exactly do you need to recruit patients, because there has to be minimal error, because it is not something that, yeah, it's a paper, you're doing it in real world in patients, and the data that we obtain from that actually makes the drug, we get to know if it is safe for the public, if it is released in the market or not. So I think that really helps, an understanding, an elaborate understanding of how we are going to carry out the project in a clinical setup. And apart from that, you actually get to ask a lot of questions. It's not just mugging up of facts. So you also get to ask your own questions. And given if you have a good mentor, I don't think they might also get annoyed at a point, but I think mostly mentors reach out to you at any available time that they have, and they try to clarify your doubts at your best. And apart from that, research is not just about finding answers, right? So one of the skills that I developed during research, like you mentioned in your presentation, was analytical thinking. And analytical thinking, we tend to analyze data, we identify the patterns of the results, and we then tend to interpret results, which directly translates into the roles in drug development, whether it can be quality development or regulatory or trials, for example. And secondly, I think attention to detail is one of the key skills which helps in the pharmaceutical industry as well, because when we do data interpretation for our projects, we obtain results, and industry operates in the same way. Precision in everything, whether you are working in clinical trials or manufacturing or any of that. So I think these are the few things that really help in industry as well.
Great, very nice. Rajesh Kaushik Joshi, Kaushik Rajesh Joshi. Kaushik is third-year student, and he is still doing a project. And you applied for IC. What was the title of your project, Kaushik?
Ma'am, my project's title was Effect of Weekly Counseling on Tuberculosis Outcomes in Tuberculosis Patients with Diabetes Mellitus, a randomized controlled study.
Yeah. So your project, what is the status now? It's have you started got the approval? And
Yes, ma'am. I had got an ethics committee approval. I started my project when I was in second year, but because of my exams, there was a gap of a brief period.
Okay.
I've resumed it now again. I've got a few more patients, so we are following up on them.
You did not get through ICMR funding, right? As STS.
Yes, ma'am.
Still, would you like to continue the study, and why would you like to do that?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I want to continue the study because when I started, my main aim was not to just get through ICMR. ICMR was just like a path to do something better in the future. But then the project itself is a big thing. So I want to finish that because it is what I'm interested in, and that's the first thing that I started.
Okay. What were the challenges you faced? What are the challenges you are facing?
Challenges that I faced, main thing was initially when I started writing the proposal, but before that also to filter what idea exactly I wanted to choose. So when I came to you, I came with an idea of something to do with just TB. And then while going through articles, I realized that, yeah, there is a possibility that it is linked with another disease, another condition. And there was nothing where I could see that what is a management for both of it together. Maybe here and there, some 2-3 people have done it, or 2-3 groups have been doing it for a while. But at our place where our hospital is based, we are not focusing exactly as to how the two diseases can be managed together. And it's not just medicines, it was something to do with the basic lifestyles which needs to be modified by almost everyone. So that was the thing which I had to interpret in my proposal and make sure that people understood the importance of it. So not just the faculty or the committee members, but also the study participants, because they are the ones who are most important here. So that was one. And one more was time management between academics as well as the project. So yeah, these are the two main challenges.
How did you balance them, academics and research?
Initially, it was really difficult because I started when I started second year. So I had to adjust through the course of second year, as well as to give time in going through articles and a formation of a proposal and then the meetings. But as and when the things progressed, after the approval came, it kind of balanced well, because I went met patients during the clinical postings time and even after college. So instead of spending time relaxing over there and doing something else, I'd rather go to the ward, take some time out of it, and spend time to see if I get patients. And if I do, then talk to them and their attenders. So it kind of balanced. At this point, both of them are going hand in hand.
Okay, great. So those were a few, feedback from people who have gone through. What is most important is these Siddharth and Sahiti and all did this work 10 years ago. Was that in 2015, 14? Today, 2012.
Yeah.
So yesterday there was a post on LinkedIn. Somebody said that you must have good facilities to come out with good research. But what I appreciate in our scene, that is very good. But we are still evolving. We are developing countries are much behind. The challenge is to find the areas which are relevant to our community, number one, and to try to do maximum in the given resources. So that is very important, and come out with the best. Today, what is happening is there are two things. One is, for this purpose also, there should be interdisciplinary approach. Secondly, there's another area which Siddharth mentioned in our initial talk. Siddharth, you said going for rounds with clinician and some other specialities or other allied branches. How does it help in research? Because many clinicians are there, pharmacologists are there, students are there. Can you elaborate on that?
Ma'am, so from a clinician point of view, first of all, we take the pharm students with us. They always look at the treatment chart and they look for drug interactions, which we may miss, because if we are seeing 50, 60 patients in a day, sometimes we may miss the drug interactions, which may be unknowingly it would have happened. It would have happened because there are ICU patients, especially, there'll be at least 10 to 12 drugs, at least.
Correct. Yes.
So that is one. So, ma'am, that drug interactions which happen, that itself is a research area. If you
research area. Yes.
That itself is a research area.
So going for rounds will give some ideas, right?
Yes, definitely, ma'am.
Yes,
definitely.
yes.
It's not just about clinical examination. It's
Yes.
also you get new ideas based on the patient response to the treatment. And
so that is one. Yeah. Any other areas, if you could think, where I think Vaishnavi, are you working with other non-medical people for research, Sahiti and Vaishnavi? How was it? I think abroad it must be very IT people, particularly. What can you share your thoughts on multidisciplinary, Sahiti?
So where I do residency, actually, we have a team of clinical pharmacists and their PharmD students as well. So when I'm on the inpatient rotation, they actually come with us. So they round with us in the morning. They see patients with us. When we're admitting patients, sometimes they're like, oh, well, after we talk to them, they stay back and talk to them for a couple extra minutes to find out a little bit more information, which sometimes, like that said, might be the thing that helps you like make the decision or understand what's really going on. In US, it's more complicated because like everything is in the electronic medical records. People might be filling medications from multiple places. So then they're going to say, hey, actually, this person is telling you that they're taking their medication, but looks like the last time they filled and picked up their medication was like 3 months ago, and it was given only for 30 days. That means, maybe they're not taking it. So they help us sometimes also like figure out what's going on. If somebody's admitted and they're like very confused, and we're trying to figure out, okay, along with all the medical causes, could there be something else going on? And they're like, oh, you know what, actually they're being seen by multiple doctors, but one of their psychiatrists like recently prescribed an SSRI, and that's interacting with another medication that they're taking, and that could be the reason that the patient's confused now. So let's stop this, wait a day and see what happens. And turns out they actually got better. So I think it's very important to have a combined approach where everyone is trying to work towards the same thing, and hopefully in the future that we can move towards that even in India. And I think the biggest, like when I worked with Dr. Anupam in cardiology and Shubtara ma'am in pharmacology, I felt like both of them always brought something important and like slightly different to the table, which all together made a lot more sense, and it helped to get better answers, provide better care, and and I think that's why we were able to successfully complete the project, because we had
Shubhatara is there, I think. Shubha, if you are there, please raise your hand. She has been a good mentor for Sahiti. Shubha, are you there? Come on the video. Please come on the video, Shubha. Yeah, there she is.
Right here.
She has been her great mentor at Vydehi. So I think we should give her that due credit. Literally, yeah, she has met all the, all right. So
it's amazing, ma'am, to see all the students here. It's I feel very proud. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So you rightly deserved mentorship, because somebody said getting good mentor is very important, and she has been one of the very hardworking mentors, in the thing. Vaishnavi, technology and medicine. How can we?
Yes, ma'am, just
in
like
your
how
in your current profile, do you have technologies working? And then we have a last question. We wind up. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. So even in the environment that I work in now, in my office, we have a full team sitting. So we have data scientists, we have an outcomes team, which provides us with data. We have research managers and directors who sort of know the research process. So they keep putting us back on track. They're like, hey, you're veering off the protocol, or you have to submit this registration form. And they're like managing the logistics. And then there are us, the clinical fellows, and we sort of go into theaters, we interact with patients, and then we come back with ideas to the data scientists, to the computer engineers, who are sort of able to develop these AI tools for us. So I work in a department which is mainly focused on using AI in orthopedics. And so I think that interaction is really, really important. And for all those undergrad students in like today's discussion who are interested in surgery, I think there's a little bit of resistance in doing research in surgery in India for some reason, because every time I have tried to approach somebody to do a research with a surgical idea, it's usually turned down more. I think that's also because there's a lot more to focus on in medicine, in internal medicine, but there's so much in surgery as well that we don't focus on. And like how Siddharth was saying, you can get certain ideas to do research in ward rounds. Even in surgeries, if you're observing a surgical procedure and you see them do a certain thing at a certain step, right? It could be something as simple as, why are they giving local anesthetic at a certain place? Like, why are they giving it at the end? Or why did they give a blood thinner at anesthetic induction? How does that affect a certain outcome? So these are all also places to come up with ideas. And I mentioned this because this is something that we do actively here. So as a research fellow, I will go and try to bring these ideas to the table, to our research meetings every week, and tell the data scientists that, hey, I have this idea, how can we create a model? So for instance, we were trying to see how tourniquet time of a patient can affect their discharge time from our hospital. So there's been a very big push towards day discharge, right? So from like a patient who had a knee replacement used to be staying in the hospital for 8 days before. And now we've realized there's actually no use of doing that, and we discharge them on the same day. So we try to create an AI tool to see how these factors can be influenced. So they sort of they sort of give you the tools to materialize your idea. But it's so important, I think, when you work with a multidisciplinary team to just have this free flow of ideas, to understand, the whole process from conception of an idea to implementation to receiving feedback from patients. So if you actually use such a model in a clinic, are patients receptive to it? So various things like that. So I think it's very, very important, and especially bigger push towards technology. I think even in India, like I'm very sure in a place like Bangalore, where we're just focused on like tech startups, there will be so many opportunities. And I think Pratibha ma'am did that as well. When I worked with her, we were working with a computer engineer, even then in CDSIMER. Yeah. So there was a computer scientist who came and explained to us how we can develop a predictive model based on various patient factors and how it will influence multi-drug resistance in tuberculosis. And I think in a place like India, where we have so much data, if we make data collection and utilization better, I think we can actually come up with lots of new tools which will improve how we can match up the accessibility question and various things. Yeah.
Thanks, Vaishnavi. That was a very insightful this thing, because after working on with technologists, I have become so passionate, and now there are so many tech companies which are interested to collaborate with healthcare professionals. We should make use of that right from undergraduate days. That will be my. I think we'll wind up in another 3-4 minutes because we have taken a lot of your time. So combining the first step is to think critically. Come out with understand the problem, think of some solutions, use technology to solve medical problems. That will do wonders actually. Technology is going to help, provided it is utilized properly and you have a good partner, engineering partner. So it's going to do really wonders. So today in India, the ecosystem is pushing for innovations. Actually, I'm coming to that. And recently somebody has posted that when they took up a study, many of the doctors want to become entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs is like practice is also entrepreneurship. I'm not denying. Rather than working, they want to have their own setup in due course, because they can see their original, they can see their innovative ideas, creative ideas being translated into actually innovations. So I would say take research very seriously, and we have learned a lot of things from these panelists who have really worked very hard, and they are proving that in their current career, wherever they are, in the universities or clinical practice, they had that in their mind and they pursued their dreams, and then they were very, I should say, so much of commitment was there that they saw to it that the projects got completed with authentic data. No manipulation, no jumbling up with the data, going through all those procedures. So it does require an extra mile, but when you have now the systems are good, so many faculty have joined for today's discussion. So when you have such a system, I think we should make best use of that, and we should become better doctors, because research is the fundamental thing on which the practice depends. Isn't that true? Yeah, leave alone innovation. I'm talking clinical practice depends on day-to-day research that is happening, and it is very good very satisfying if you are part of any research at any level. Even a small contribution would definitely make you feel proud, and it is, as I had mentioned earlier, it will give you a lot of satisfaction that we are giving back to the society whatever we have learned as undergraduate, because getting a medical seat is no joke. Getting a PharmD seat is no joke. Contributing to pharma industry, which is day and night working, very hard on bringing out new molecules. So if you are contributing there and contributing to healthcare science in any way, I think that is very great. So wishing all the best, and thank you all panelists. Thank you all participants for staying with us. I hope you had a good session and we all have learned through this session. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for creating this platform.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.